Welcome to the channel of the Roving Vets. This episode we will be in Oatman, Arizona. So this episode is going to be through the eyes of our GoPro. So you can get to Oatman one of two ways. We typically start with the harder, curvier, windier way to get there, to get that part out of the way. Me, Bethany, yeah, I'm afraid of heights, and there are a lot of places on this route where it gets pretty close to the edge, so I like to get the hard part out of the way first. Either way, it is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful view through here. One thing I would absolutely notate is we haven't seen any yet in this video, but this area is known for its wild burros. In other words, donkeys. Perfect timing because there is your first sign. To give you a little background information on Oatman, this is what Wikipedia has to say. Oatman is an unincorporated community and is a census-designated place in the Black Mountains of Mojave County, Arizona, United States, located at an elevation of 2,710 feet. It began as a small mining camp when two prospectors struck a $10 million gold find in 1915, though the vicinity had already been settled for a number of years. Oatman's population grew to more than 3,500 in the course of a year. As of the 2020 census, though, its population is 102. In case you didn't already know, and you probably didn't because I didn't tell you, Oatman is in the tri-state area, so it sits very close to the Nevada, California, Arizona border. Now, the story of how Oatman got his name is so crazy and bizarre. But I guess when you look at the time frame, it's not really that crazy based on what was going on back then. So, Oatman got his name in honor of Olive Oatman, who was a young girl from Illinois and got captured and enslaved by the Indians that were in the area at the time. And I'm probably going to say this wrong, but Tokipaya's tribe? Yeah, I probably butchered that, but I tried. Anyway, they pioneered that area, her family did, and her family was massacred in 1851 as they were traveling through. Now, soon after that, she was sold/traded, however you want to look at it, pretty much the same thing, to the Mojave people, where they adopted her into their tribe and gave her the face tattoos that were custom of the tribe. Also, in 1856, she was released at Fort Yuma. Now, if you go to Oatman, they have books of the story of Olive Oatman's life that you can buy in some of the stores, shops. So if that's something that interests you, pick one of those up while you're there. You probably learn a lot from it. Now, in 1863, a man named Johnny Moss discovered gold in the Black Mountains, and of course, he decided to stake several claims there because of that. And I mean, we all know what happens whenever someone finds gold somewhere. Oh yeah, that place was taken over for the next half a century. All that gold brought prosperity to Oatman in the early 20th century. The opening of the Tom Reed mine, followed by the discovery of a rich ore body in the nearby United Eastern Mining Company's property in 1915, brought one of the desert's very last gold rushes. Believe it or not, for about a decade, the mines of Oatman were among the largest gold producers in the American West. Then in 1921, a fire burned down many of Oatman's smaller buildings, but spared Oatman's hotel that was built in 1902. And crazy enough, to this day, it remains the oldest two-story structure in Mojave County, and it is a historical landmark, as you could see. Now, here you're going to see me slowing down, and it's slowing down a history lesson, because here we see our first donkey, aka burro of the trip. Check this out. These little guys are just everywhere the closer you get to the city. And clearly I use the term city loosely in reference to a town that only has 102 people to this day. Also, I'm going to take a break on the history lesson and tell you what brings all of the motorcyclists to the area. Now, on 9 miles of this road, there are 191 curves. 191. So as you can see, that in itself brings lots of motorcyclists to the area because they always like the curves. It is also, though, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, on original Route 66. So anybody doing that road trip is going to go straight through Oatman. As you can see on this trip, this was the first time we went, so we didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't know where we were going, really. But you can see how few cars have been on the road since you've been watching this drive-through. Now, depending on when you go will depend on how many people you see along this road. We have been probably a handful of times at this point, and we have been where there's maybe 5 people there. We've been when there's 10 people there. We've been the last time we went actually, and the streets were full. I was extremely shocked at how full it was last time we went. Another thing that you really need to know is Oatman closes really early. Think about it. There's only a handful of people that live there. They're not working all day. We have been there when it was completely dead and isolated and we didn't see a soul at like 2 o'clock. But we have also been there when it was 4 o'clock and the streets were packed. The day it was packed, though, they were having a mock gunfight in the streets. Kind of something like they would show during, tombstone type things. But also something that you're really going to know is that the weekends are when you're going to have most of the places open. Now, they're still not going to be open past 4 or 5, so make sure when you're going, if you want to see the actual town, that you're there on the weekend during the day when they're still there. This video in particular is nothing but GoPro footage of the drive. However, we will be posting a video on here of the actual town, things to do, things to see once you get there. But a lot of people don't want to see this, do want to see that. So we're trying to break it down to where if you don't really want to see a bunch of the touristy stuff, at least you have a nice scenic view, something to watch, as well as the history of the town. Now, I slowed down this right here just because you can see the Oatman sign is in like 8 miles or whatever. That is the first sign, actual sign telling you, hey, you're kind of getting a little bit closer. Now, you still do have kind of a drive from here, but it's a beautiful scenic drive, as you can see. So plenty to see. We've stopped a million times along this road, and you can't see it on here because we sped it up. For anybody curious, yes, I should notate that. This video is ×2 speed. And you might think it doesn't look like we're going that fast, but the speed limit is 25 on this road because I'm sure you can tell by the video, it is very curvy, and there are some areas where it gets you close to the edge and there is no guardrail. So that speed limit you are really going to want to watch because you don't want to get yourself in trouble. There is no way to rescue you out here easily because you see how isolated it is. Another thing that you might find very interesting, because I did, is one of the hotels that is there in Kingman. Okay, I guess you noticed I'm back to the history lesson. Clark Gable and Carol Lombard actually supposedly spent their honeymoon there in 1939 after their wedding that they had in Kingman, Arizona. Kingman is also on Route 66. As I stated, if you're going through the Route 66, you're going to go through that whole area. Then we come to 1924 when the mayor decided to officially, permanently shut down the operation of the mine there in Oatman. You can bet that changed everything. For that year and that time, they produced $40 million in gold, which if you're looking in 2021, I know it is 2023 officially now, but in 2021, that would equate to $736,923. So that little town definitely brought in a lot of money in gold. What ended this, you ask? Well, in 1941, the remainder of the town's gold mining operation was ordered to be shut down by the government. Why, you ask? The war effort. We officially were going to war. Now, you can see how a town that was only there for mining would really struggle after they were shut down for mining. However, the only thing that kept them going at all was the fact that they were on Route 66 in between Kingman and Needles. Now, here you're going to come to see that I'm slowing down again. That is because we have our next Oatman citizen coming on the screen. There's you another donkey. Or burro. Alright, now back to the history lesson. So by 1953, there was a new route built in between Kingman and Needles, making it to where people no longer had to go on Route 66 through those treacherous mountains and curves and twists and turns to get from one place to the next. That is when the town of Oatman was pretty much abandoned. About the only thing left were the people who actually wanted to stay there, and really with nothing there and it taking so long to get from town to town because of the roads back then, not just a whole lot of people stayed. And that is what brings us to today's Oatman, where not just a whole lot of people there, but you can find a lot of people there that are tourists traveling and seeing the town. Now, this is where you're going to start getting into the actual town of Oatman. So I'm going to let you look at all of this as we drive through. I will slow it down because right now at this point we are still on 2 times speed. Now this is where we come to normal speed. Look to the left, and right there you see the friendly donkey. These guys are friendly. They will come right up to your car if your window's down. They will come stick their head in your window. They also will not move if they get in front of you. This is their town and they know it's their town. So you at times might find a bunch of them in the middle of the road, and you just get to wait on them when they decide to move, because they're not moving if you just honk. Now look to the left, that hotel right there, that is the oldest 2-story building in the entire county of Mojave County in Arizona. And it was also the honeymoon area of Clark Gable. Now we are about midway through town at this point. I told you it was small, but this particular day there were not very many cars here. We were kind of later in the evening and it was not the weekend. So if you're wanting to come and see all the things to do, everything open, you definitely want to come on the weekend. See, just like that. That is the end of the actual town. As I stated earlier, this is just our drive-through. We did stop, we did take videos, we did take pictures of the town, all of which we will put in a different video of all of that. This, we just wanted to give you a little bit different scenic version. So be checking back and we will be posting that video coming up before too long. Now this is the way out, although we do turn around and we go back to town, and that is when we got a lot of the pictures and videos you'll see up here, right about here. Anyway, I will tell you a few things there is to do that you're not going to see on this video, but you can see on the next Oatman video we post. The town itself, that is the things that are to do. There is a restaurant, they have an ice cream store. One of the neatest things that we saw here was a store. It was, I guess, a saloon is what you would call it, a bar. And I have never in my entire life seen as many dollar bills as in that restaurant. Now, the one thing I completely forgot to mention was, why are the donkeys there to begin with? So they used these donkeys, or not these donkeys, but they used donkeys in the mining of this town back in the day. Well, when the town was no longer a mining town, they just freed all the donkeys. So generation after generation after generation after generation, these donkeys that are there now have never known anything different than being a wild donkey. But in saying that, these things, yeah, they're not so wild. They will walk right up to you, and they will also eat something in your hand if you let them. That's all for now. Until next time.